It's a regular family barbecue at the Commanders and Ravens joint practice. We've got Terry cooking, we've got Forbes cooking, and we've got plenty of fights here on your August 15 Daily Commanders Update. Let's go. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to your 15 August Daily Commanders Update. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. We are Ref the District here on the Believe Network, and we give you all the great content when it comes to your Commanders. We are, of course, live on Wednesdays, so make sure you check that out. But we will be providing you daily content for the Commanders here on our YouTube channel and, of course, your favorite audio platforms. Stoner, the day has finally arrived. It is joint practice time between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders. You were unable to go. You're like 30 minutes away from them. But what did you get just kind of watching some of the stream? Because the Ravens did provide a visual stream for fans to enjoy from afar.
Yeah, I did get to watch quite a bit of it. I do have a day job, so I couldn't watch as much as I wanted to. But I tell you, this is probably, other than obviously the regular season games, this is better than preseason to me because you get a lot of work with your ones against their ones and vice, on both sides of the ball. So it's just so much fun to be able to watch these guys compete and battle and go out there. And you know what? Commanders against a proven championship franchise like Baltimore, they more than held their own today. From everything that we saw and everything that we're hearing from everybody else, the Commanders came ready to play right from the jump. And we'll see that in a lot of clips a little bit later. But, man, it's a lot of fun to watch them compete in these joint sessions.
Yeah, lots of competition. You mentioned about like how, and we've said this before, Ron talked about it as far as teams that do this are better in the season than teams that don't. One of those reasons is, and you said it's better than preseason. You got to think like an actual preseason game, even a regular season game, your only offense is only going to be out there for maybe 15 minutes worth, essentially, of actual game time. Right. Here you're getting several hours back to back against a real opponent to get the real flow for the game and see how things are going to work. And so there's a lot to good to come from that. We're going to get to that good here in a moment, Stoner. But we did want to do some of those injury updates, as there were quite a few players that were missing today. So let's get to those here. We have, starting off here from Nikki J, Fedarian Mathis was not doing anything. He was physically there, but was in a boot on his left foot. Not good there for the second-year pro. We've kind of talked about that second round, curse that Washington has. Fedarian Mathis not doing anything to get himself over that hump. Chase Young also not participating. Logan Thomas was doing work on the side field, which, as John Kine points out here in his tweet, was a good step for him. And Benjamin St. Juste didn't work either with that ankle. Is that more so just rest for him, Stoner, or do you think that there's some legitimate concern about BSJ going into the season?
No, I don't think there's any legitimate concern at this point, but sure, he did tweak it in that game, but he did play a little bit more after that, and he did come out on Sunday and start practice. He couldn't finish practice because of that ankle, didn't practice yesterday, and then didn't participate. But we talked about it yesterday in the Daily Commanders Update, that these guys who just have just a little bit of an injury even, they're not going to risk that. And I think that's the case with St. Juste.
Yeah, if this were in the regular season, might be something that they play through, or maybe they sit for a couple games and then they come out and start playing there. So with Chase Young sitting, JP Finley informs us that Efe Obada was getting first team rep work opposite Montez Sweat. Any surprises there for you? Did you think maybe Casey Toohill or one of the younger guys might have gotten that first step?
Yeah, why would – I mean, it is a surprise, absolutely. Obada's not necessarily a surprise. I mean, he was probably one of the last guys to make the team last year, but he did make the team, was there all season, and has really impressed in training camp so far this year. But, yeah, he got the start over, like you said, Toohill, Smith Williams,
KJ Henry, Andre Jones.
Yeah, all those guys, and he's the one that got the start in place of Chase. That's significant. if Chase has to miss some time or Sweat has to miss time or whatever, he's your first guy off the bench and he's your second teamer. And that's what this shows to me. That's impressive for Obada.
I think that he was just very consistent when you look at the work that he put in last season. Maybe he's not as flashy, but this is one of those concerns that I had, Stoner, is once you get past Montez Sweat and Chase Young, as far as defensive ends and pass rushers are concerned, Washington doesn't have any true quality. I mean, I'm not trying to talk bad about Efe Obada and Casey Toohill. Those guys are just fine.
Right.
But I'm talking about a game changer, a game wrecker. You really don't have that outside those first two. So that's what's going to be interesting if Chase Young does have to miss more and more time, is you do have to put in a rotation of Casey Toohill, Efe Obada, William Bradley King, and Montez Sweat starts to get doubled. So there might be some things to continue to watch as we go through more and more of the season on that end.
Absolutely.
JP also noticed impressive session there for Sadiq Charles, someone who has been much maligned on this channel here with you and me, Stoner. JP saying it makes it easier to understand why coaching staff is so willing to be patient with him. The talent's been there, and the talent's always been with Sadiq Charles, Stoner.
Yeah.
The question is, will he be able to stay healthy? Do you have an answer for me?
So I don't have an answer on whether or not he can stay healthy, because he hasn't stayed healthy for 3+ seasons now. But with I thought was also interesting in what JP Finley was saying there, along with Brian Mitchell, along with London Fletcher, they all agreed that Sadiq Charles stood out today in the ones. He was running with the ones today and he stood out, and that's a good sign. And he was in the ones yesterday. He was with the ones on Sunday after Chris Paul had such an impressive debut, or not debut, preseason game number 1. And yet Sadiq Charles was back with the ones right away. And today he impressed. That's good. Good for depth too. Hopefully this O-line's coming together.
Yeah, I want nothing more than to everybody to pan out. So I want to make sure viewers or listeners of this channel aren't mistaking us for saying that he would be a surprise cut with saying that we don't want him to work out.
Correct.
We, of course, want him to work out. It's just merely he hasn't shown that. And this might be one of those things, like if he doesn't show out and show up healthy, he might lose his spot. So we'll see. He's been doing good, and that's good things for Washington as they need Sam Howell to have time. That was kind of a little bit of concern here in practice. But I tell you who wasn't a concern, Stoner.
Who's that?
And that was Terry McLaurin, who was absolutely cooking here, as we got some video, this one from Matthew Paris, of just Terry absolutely doing wonderful things. You see a little bit of a tug on the shoulder, as I think this was Humphreys that he was on. Yeah,
Marlon Humphrey.
Marlon Humphreys just got abused by Terry McLaurin, which, to be fair, everybody's going to get abused by Terry McLaurin. How good is it to see Terry against a quality defensive team here with the Ravens still showing out?
And an all-pro corner. Marlon Humphrey's no slouch. He's one of the top corners in the league, and Terry was working him. He was cooking him, as you said in the opening. Yeah, it was a family barbecue. Guys were cooking. Terry was cooking some folk. Yeah. So, he looked good. He looked great. Not good. He looked great.
Pretty much all the wide receivers were doing some serious cooking here, as Jahan Dotson was also doing his own cooking. So let's get a video of him up here. This one courtesy of Zach Selby. Again, Jahan Dotson's just so clean with his route running. Doing that stunner step and then just able to turn on a dime. It really makes an impressive, viewing for us as fans. How much should we expect from the Jahan Dotson as the season goes on?
I don't want to get too carried away, and I don't want to get too hyperbolic with these things, but I'm so in love with Dotson and his abilities, and too bad that he missed 5 games last year with injuries and what season he could have put together. This guy is the real deal. We didn't really know him when he was drafted last year. We knew the name, but we didn't expect him to get drafted that high. But man, he's showing out. He's having a fantastic camp. And sure, those are just one-on-one drills that he's doing that. But when you get that much separation from a starting defensive back in the NFL, you're doing something right. Jahan Dotson is the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to be forgotten, though, is Curtis Samuel, who also cooking on this family barbecue day. One-on-one drills here. Matthew Paris again with the video. This is just a simple outplay, but I definitely want to watch this one again here as, again, very simple, cuts to the outside and just gets 4 or 5 feet of separation. That's a first down on a 3rd and short every time.
Yeah, and let's give them their props that we have these 3 clips of the receivers just cooking out there. Sam Howell's throwing them the ball, and you see them on all of those plays, those 3 that we just showed. The timing is there, the accuracy is there. You saw with Terry that it was zipped right in there, allowing Terry to make a move. You saw with Jahan that he didn't have to break stride once he made that cut and went across the field. And then you saw right there with Curtis, allowed him to catch the ball with that much separation. Sam Howell's throwing him the ball. I'm a little bit concerned, Nathan. I'm a little bit concerned that I'm not at a 180 on Sam Howell, but I'm past 90. I'm past 90 getting to where I'd be a howler. And I'm scared because that's not like me to do that this early in preseason. Yeah. Sam Howell had a fantastic practice. Let me just say that.
Let's go ahead and break out the tracker.
All right,
let's do this right now, Stoner. Break out the tracker because it sounds like we already know the answer.
There's you see what I have in my hand here, Nathan?
You got the black and the green.
Do you see a red?
There's no red here.
I'm not even bothering getting it out of the drawer. That was another 7 straight practices that Sam Howell has been on top of his game. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that up. I got the black there because I forgot to put the date
forgot
already.
To put the date, but it's clearly a W for the young man. Let's get that howling going here on the soundboard.
Listen, Nathan, something's going on here in Ashburn / Owings Mills up in Baltimore. Something's going on with Sam Howell. And I'm not afraid to say that I may have been completely wrong about Sam Howell. Something's going on. Something's happening. And because you ask the beat reporters from Baltimore, we didn't put any of those up in our tweets, but they've been praising him. The DBs for Baltimore were praising him. Something's going on, Nathan.
Yeah, they don't have to praise him, right? Like this isn't like Washington. Of course, Terry McLaurin, the declassified guys, LE's out there sharing a lot of the tweets. Shout out to those gentlemen. He's sharing a lot of the tweets from when people were praising Heineke.
Sure.
Right. Terry McLaurin and Carson Wentz. Everybody was praising these guys. They have to, right? If they're part of the organization, that's just something they have to do. These guys are not a part of the organization. Now, there's usually some friendly, like, no one's going to come out and say that the guy's trash, but they don't have to be so, loving, I suppose, in their praise of Sam Howell. But it sounds like Washington might just have at least somebody who has the potential to be that guy, which is something they haven't had for a while.
And again, the whole reason we started this tracker is pay attention to what those beat reporters are saying about Howell. Pay attention to what the John Kimes and Finleys and Matthew Paris's and Standigs and on 48s, all those guys. Pay attention to what they're saying about Sam Howell. If they're not couching their praise for what he's doing, then you take that at face value that that's what's going on. When they start saying things like, he had a rough day, his footwork looked off, his timing was, then it's a rough day, but they won't just say he was bad.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anything.
Haven't had that in a long time.
In a week or so. So that's impressive.
Yep. Let the good times keep rolling and let the defense keep doing its thing. We have Duron Payne also cooking today here in the defensive line, offensive line drills. This video is via the Commanders here. Just thumping, absolutely thumping number 62 here, who of the Ravens, who I forgot to look this one up to see who this is, but just absolutely blowing right by him. And this is the disruptive force that we've come used to, which is great to continue seeing from Duron Payne, because I know a lot of people were worried, maybe not a lot, but I know some people were worried that once the player gets the bag, that they kind of slow things down. Doesn't look like Duron Payne's willing to slow down right now, Stoner.
Tayshawn Manning, I believe, is the name of the offensive lineman. I had to look it up. It's not like I knew him off the top of my head either. But, he's a starting offensive lineman for the Ravens. And we all know the type of offensive lines that those Ravens always have. They've always had a great running game with great offensive lines. Duron Payne was just abused that guy. I don't want to say he was abusing him. On that play, that dude had no shot at Duron Payne.
None. Yeah, got right by him. OBJ thought he would be able to get right by Commanders rookie Emmanuel Forbes. Not the case, at least on this play that's made its rounds across social media. Jahan OPOY on the grab here from the stream as OBJ a little out and up action, and Forbes ran with him the entire time. Right, OBJ is a physical wide receiver. One of the biggest concerns from Forbes was that he's got those skinny legs and he's just not big enough to play corner in the NFL. Does this make you feel a lot better about Forbes?
Well, I don't know how I can feel better. I've been, all over the Forbes train from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning when he was drafted, but the beginning of training camp. He's done nothing again but excel at training camp. And this is constant, Nathan, that we've been talking about in training camp, that these guys, they've had a better than usual training camp overall so far. You still got a couple weeks left. Well, I mean, you only got this week technically of training camp before they break camp, and then it becomes basically the preseason. But they've had a better than usual camp. Mm-hmm. We haven't had major injuries just yet, right? So
Stoner loves to jinx this on this.
I mean, it's never happened. So the jinx has never happened. But they've played so well and gotten a lot of praise. And also, you heard a lot from some Baltimore beat reporters as well, that at the beginning of practice, the Commanders were ready to go.
Yeah.
More so than the Ravens were. Mm-hmm. And that's a testament to what? It's a testament really to two things.
Coaching,
leadership.
Yep.
Player leadership. The McLaurins, Allens of the world that are your captains. So that bodes well that this stuff is the stuff that the coaches are putting in their heads or whatever, that it's getting through to these guys, and they were ready to go from the jump at practice today. And really all preseason or all training camp long, this has been a really good training camp so far.
It absolutely has been. I want to address one thing here, Soner. A lot of people, the Commanders team posted the photo. The photo's going around of Forbes and OBJ. Everyone's calling defensive pass interference. What's your take on that?
It's not. Next.
It's not. It's not. And not only that, if I'm going to bring up the video, and for our audio listeners, you won't be able to see it, but I'm going to let you know here, there is an official. They brought refs to this practice and this session had them. There is an official watching this entire interaction here, maybe 10 feet away from those two.
Yep.
And he's watching the whole thing and no call. He keeps his hand completely away from that flag. So you Baltimore people who want to try to say, oh, that was defensive pass interference and no. Emmanuel Forbes had OBJ covered. Now, OBJ might have gotten the best of some of the other players, and maybe it was only one rep, but that particular rep, Emmanuel Forbes had the better of OBJ. Love to see it.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things with joint practices is the fighting. There's a lot of fighting, usually some trash talking. Infamously from the Houston and Redskins training camp, there was D'Angelo Hall getting his Achilles torn after some trash talk. And thankfully, no injuries this time. But there were some fists a-flying here as Emmanuel Forbes getting involved in one of those fisticuffs as well, as Forbes just had good coverage on the wide receiver, brings him the outside, then kind of makes a couple extra swats at the ball. And it just didn't stop there. The video here, courtesy of Bleeding Burgundy. Little fight, little scuffle. You got Cam Curl coming in there. I love that Tucker is putting on his helmet to get into the fray there.
Justin Tucker, like
well.
He's Justin
Tucker, like he's a wily vet. He knows what's about to happen here as as fists start flying.
Gotta have that helmet on.
We have one more here, and that's NBC4 Sports showing some more extra activity as Mark Andrews body slams Danny Johnson, and the bench is again coming off because you just can't do that. Danny Johnson's one of the smaller guys in the field too. Mark Andrews, not one of the smallest guys. This one here, Stoner, was actually just shortly, I believe, after another incident with Nick Gates, was it not?
Well, I think it was more so right after the Forbes.
Oh, okay.
And Forbes and I forgot the name of their receiver. He's not one of their top guys, but yeah, it was right after that. And so you had the two, and then they got into all this, and then the coaches got the teams together and told them to knock it off and all that. And that pretty much kept in line. The Nick Gates thing was pretty early on.
Yeah, that was early on, getting choked and fighting back a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to have some of that passion when it comes to joint practices. I'm glad that they kept him at a minimum. Coaches kept it under control. Looking forward to having more of the positive stuff that goes on. But every time you see your teammates coming for you, a lot of times that will reinvigorate an offense, and they'll get close together. A defense, they'll get closer together. So sometimes you need something like that to get you going. So that has been your Daily Commanders update here on Ref the District on the Believe Network. Make sure if you're on YouTube that you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us on one of the many areas that the Believe Network has us, make sure that you're also subscribed out there. But until next time,
it was cooking them Ravens, cooking them.
Be a fan.
Yeah.